What do you think of Charvarius Ward? Do you think he could be the number one cornerback that the Niners need?
Well, that's what they need. I mean, and they've needed this for years. I mean, they've needed a number one cornerback for a long time. I mean, maybe Carlos Rogers. I mean, I'm not sure who would you say the last guy that you could say, yeah, that guy's a true Dion. You want to go further back?
Carlos Rogers was good, but I mean,
he had a real good year. He had a real good year in their Super Bowl year.
Played behind the best front seven ever, or not ever?
Yeah,
yeah,
and two hammer safeties just lurking at all times.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, I didn't see Ward. Did he play at all in these 2 days? No, he didn't.
No,
but he was there.
They're like transparent about the injuries for everyone else, but they asked about Ward. They're like, "Oh, we're just being smart." What the hell does that mean? That means he's hurt, right? And today he was doing the little sprints with other people that were hurt. So who knows what he tweaked or whatever? And they're saying it's not a big deal, but yeah, I mean, he's hurt.
You know, and once again, a guy like that, he's going to be, he's making your football team. So, and you got a lot of bodies back there. So why not take inventory on what you got? I'm okay with it. I would have loved to have seen him, out there just flashing that dominance and kind of reminding everybody that it's a new era and they have a true number one corner with size and speed who can play bump and run, who can play man, who can match up against the Cooper Kupps of the world. I think that would give this football team confidence, but demonstrating that in May, not vital, as long as we can see it in July.
I want to see it in July and August because look, I've seen a lot of players who get that big second contract, especially guys who might have been undrafted, like Charvarius Ward. Yes, you've had some great, Charvarius Ward has had one great year in the NFL, maybe two. You just got paid. Now there's a whole different expectation. Can you be that consistent pro who has the consistent level of performance every time you step on a field, whether it's a real game or practice? And so far, he hasn't shown that yet. So I'm not saying he can't be that guy, but I'd like to see him do it in training camp. And if he doesn't do it in training camp, it doesn't mean he won't. But like, a soft tissue injury, first thing after you get a big contract, like, okay, let's just hope that was a fluke. Let's see you be that pro that the Niners are banking on you being, because the Chiefs didn't want to bring. I mean, the Chiefs weren't offering you that second. Maybe they didn't really seem that eager to bring him back on a second contract. They wanted Eric Reed's little brother. They thought that's the pro that they're going to invest in. So Charvarius, prove them wrong, prove the Niners right. I didn't get to see that. I'd like to see it. He looked great when he was healthy. No one beat him when he was healthy that one time.
The thing that stood out to me on the corner is just how many more guys they have. I mean, last year they literally were like 4 or 5 deep, and they were leaning on rookies. This year they're deeper. I mean, you got Verrett back. You got a number of guys there. You invested in Charvarius. You got Mosley, healthy. You've got Ambry and Lenore a year more experienced. So they definitely have more. They like Denard. I think they're deeper on the corner. To me, it's an interesting secondary because it's a deep group of corners, and I think 2 really good safeties, but the depth at safety is not there. So that's going to be interesting.
Hold on. Before we go to safety, we're going to go to safety next. I just want to say that losing Josh Norman is addition by subtraction. So that's a big – we're not talking –
Though you lose a bunch of fumble. You lose all your turnovers, though.
That's true. But he did
force a ton of turnovers.
He had to give up like 5 catches for it. But, yeah, he was sort of begging, if I give up like 5 or 6 catches every game, I might be able to knock one out. And it worked for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
that's it. Hey, you know what? That's what happens when you get into the regular season and you run out of corners. And that, to me, is why it's really a positive that we're here in minicamp a month before training camp, and they may go 8 or 9 deep on the corner, and really only 5 guys make the team. So they've got the depth there that I think you almost have to be a championship contender. That's a good sign.
The Niners are so focused on their front seven, which is great. But if you are thin at corner and you go up against a team that's deep at wide receiver, they instantly get your 4th, 5th, 6th best corner on the field, and they just abuse him. And then there's nothing you can do. I seem to remember that what was his name? Brian Allen?
Brian Allen, former Florida State guy against Miami.
Against Brian Allen. I mean, they called him up from the practice squad that day. They
signed him on Wednesday and played him on Sunday, and it showed. They picked on him. They went at him. There's an old saying that what's the key to pass coverage? Pass coverage. In other words, there is no key to pass coverage. You better get the guys. You better. I mean, you could have Bill Belichick or Bud Carson or George Seifert. You could have anybody you want in the history of football scheming it up back there. If you run out of guys, you're cooked.
Right, especially a corner who can't defend the go ball. If you have a corner who's just giving up go balls left and right like Brian Allen, there's no coverage you can call. What are you going to do? Yeah. No coverage works. It's the get him off the field coverage. Sorry. Joe Summerall says, how does Hufanga's speed look with extra muscle? What do you think?
Well, I think Hufanga is on an incredible trajectory. When they drafted him, I thought, man, they drafted this guy. He was the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year, but look at the measurables and look at the 40 time and look at this and look at that. And then I just forgot, what am I talking about? If you can play DB in the Pac-12 with all the advantages, the good weather, the soft officiating, the good quarterbacks, the pro style receivers, the pro offenses, there's so many things that favor the offense in the Pac-12 that if you can have success playing corner or safety in the Pac-12, that bodes well for your chances in the NFL. This guy wasn't just good. He was the best. So I feel like I shame on me and anybody who doubted this guy because it's about the film. It's not about – this was not the underwear Olympics. It's not a superstars competition. It's about can you play football? And that guy can play football, and he loves it. And so every time I watch him, every time they reconvene, he's like better and better and better, and everybody loves him more. I mean, he needed to gain a step, but now through an NFL offseason, he's gained that step, probably a step and a half. I can't wait to see Hufanga. I think Hufanga and Ward are going to be the best players on their defense. Jimmy Ward, that is.
In their secondary.
Well, I mean, Bosa is obviously their best player, period. But I think the safety combo that we're so worried about may wind up being one of the strengths of their defense. Not the guys necessarily behind their starters, but Jimmy Ward and Hufanga, with Ward playing the deep middle and Hufanga hovering around the line of scrimmage and making plays against the run and pass, near the line of scrimmage. I think it'd be a great tandem.
Well, I mean, I'm very eager to see Hufanga clearly in the preseason against another team, but also in the one-on-ones because Ward is the best at covering tight ends. It'll be nice to sort of compare Hufanga to the best, see how close he is. Be interesting. I don't expect him to be as good as Jimmy Ward, but no one really is covering tight end. Brandon Turner says he'll give me $250 for the hat if I sign it. Okay, I'll do that. I like that. Absolutely. All right, but I'm auctioning this hat off. It's the Brandon Turner just put down $250. Let me know if you can beat it. I love that. Thank you, Brandon. That's dope. There's one more, and then we'll move on. Get back to the show. Refugio Gomez says, "Who plays nickelback, and do you think that there's a possibility that Jason Verrett plays cornerback 2 this year?" Well, he's just been in street clothes so far at practice, but I think he'll probably be suiting up at training camp. There's a possibility. Who do you think will be the nickelback?
If you'd asked me a month ago, I would have said Emmanuel Mosley. But now, after watching them on the field, I don't think it's going to be Mosley. I think Mosley may play outside.
How many reps has Mosley taken in the slot? Tell him, Larry.
None.
Tell him. 0. Not a snap.
And he doesn't have a lot of history there from what I recall. So he's outside. Ambry probably looks more comfortable outside. You're going to play Charvarius outside. I don't know. I'm not sure. That's a great question. Maybe Samuel Womack? Samuel Womack has the look for sure.
That's my guess. I think they're not making a big deal of it. He's not playing on the first team yet, but he's definitely getting reps in the slot. And I think he hasn't made plays yet, but he hasn't gotten burned. And Denard got burned yesterday. Lenore gets burned every day. Sorry. Dante Johnson is always in the mix. He's decent. He's there. I wouldn't count him out. I think it's going to come down to Dante Johnson and Womack. That's my best guess.
Dante Johnson's like an insurance policy. He can play anywhere in a pinch.
Sleeper. Dark horse in this competition. You've liked him. You mentioned him before. I haven't saw him on the field. Quantrez Knight.
Yeah. And he is really interesting because he kind of bounces around the practice field with some, with some purpose. And I watched a lot of UCLA the last couple of years, and every time I looked up, this guy was making plays. He makes plays against the run. He's a very sure tackler. He's a very mature player. He's a very competitive player. So he obviously lacked 40 time. That's why he went undrafted. But it's also a position about instincts and functional speed. And so we're not really going to know till they put the pads on and, he gets out there this summer. But yes, I agree with you. That is the guy to watch. Womack and Knight are the young DBs that really kind of caught my eye in this mini camp.
Yeah. The young Montana says, Grant, that same company also makes a Santa Clara for. No, I love that. I want that. You should cop. That would piss the player. I would probably piss off Jed the most. These hats are great. I don't know if you've ever seen them. They have a little.
Is it mesh?
It's like a trucker hat, but it has a little secret compartment here that you can put your
camera
in. And they basically have like one for every town in California. Samson Ebicom was wearing one today with San Juan Capistrano on it.
Seriously, I think we bought my kid one and it says Walnut Creek on it.
Nice. You can rep anything in California.
Seriously.
I love these hats. Santa Clara 49ers. Wow, that is totally up my alley.